Ooh, all right. Jessica. Oh, I love to write
I know, I
poetry.
was just gonna
Really
say that.
cool.
That's impressive.
No kidding. Wow. Okay. You gotta show us this sometime, Jessica.
From Jessica writing poetry to Val fighting Somalia pirates.
Oh,
That's
wow.
funny.
Okay. Wow. Small. Okay. Wow. Okay. 6'2".
Very
Okay. Well, Eileen, I am 5 foot even on a good day, and
nice.
my mom's 4'10", as and my dad's like 5'8",
Really?
so we did not have
Wow.
we never shot any of us. So yeah. Hi, Dr. Flora.
Hello, Natalie. Hello.
Good to see you. And you're from Romania, right?
Yes,
Romania, yeah.
and I'm also 6'2", just like Eileen.
Oh wow, okay. Nice. Very nice.
Wow.
Hey,
Wow.
hey, Melissa. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm just catching up with the in the chat, so I'm filling that out here.
Okay, cool.
And I've got a cold, so I'll be like off mic quite a bit. But I'm
No
looking
worries.
for the presentation.
Cool. Well, I'll share a fun fact about myself too. I love to salsa dance. So I salsa dance every Thursday here in Nashville at a place called Plaza Mariachi. And I always look forward to Thursdays. Always look forward to Thursdays. And there is a place to salsa dance almost every night of the week here in Nashville, interestingly enough.
So interesting.
Uh-huh.
I think we're gonna do country line dancing lessons next year at the Palace.
Oh, nice.
You been to
Okay.
the Palace?
I once, like long
Okay.
time ago. Uh-huh.
It's fun. Hi, Tammy.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
I think we have probably 20-ish people joining, but we'll start. Oh, it's 11:06 already. I start. Should we get started, Natalie? Because we have a lot to
Yeah,
cover.
let's do it.
So welcome everyone. Really appreciate you being here to Hang On Health's very first virtual event. This is our second summit session though, and I'll get into a little bit about what that means. But first, if you are able, have a little challenge here to screenshot, maybe take a selfie of you listening to today's presentation and post about it on Instagram, LinkedIn, and every post is a separate entry. And the person with the most entries will get a $10 Amazon gift card, which I actually had before Natalie agreed to speak. So that just worked out. So that's the little challenge there. And then I would love to just give you a quick overview of Hang On Health for those of you I don't know and haven't met yet. And then I will introduce Natalie and we'll get into her presentation and we'll go from there. So for those of you I haven't met, my name is Tina Stoyka. Previously, Tina Phillips. I got married in May, so still getting used to the new last name. Sometimes occasionally use it by accident. And I have been in business development for about 16, 17 years now. Grew up in South Jersey, went to school in Philly, was in DC for almost 10, and then moved to Nashville about 7 years ago. In short, in 2020, I started my own sales, marketing, and consulting business and was going really well. About 9 months in, my biggest client, I had her on about a $30,000 a month retainer, and she black holed. And I have no idea what happened to her. She never paid it. She stopped paying all her employees. And so that led to my mental health downfall. I was really successful in DC. I'm very independent. I bought a brand new house in East Nashville when I moved here. So to have this happen and my whole life go to shambles, I basically went into a grieving period, loss of identity, loss of purpose. And so all of that ended up leading to battling suicidal depression and anxiety. A year later, I was diagnosed as having bipolar 2. I also have ADHD. I'm told I now have PTSD and trauma from what happened. So because of all that I experienced as a founder, I thought there's no way that other people aren't going through this as well, whether that's problems with their business or mental health. And I had this idea, and I think that I can bring other entrepreneurs together to talk about those things behind the scenes and really help each other. So that's where Hang On Health comes in. So we empower entrepreneurs to build mental resilience so they can achieve peak performance personally and professionally, especially to help you and your business be successful. But what you learn through this will also transition into your personal life. And so we do that by providing accessible and credible education, community, and coaching. So we know that the three biggest challenges, anybody on this Zoom can relate, I'm sure, that as an owner of a business, as well as someone who's going through mental health issues like me with suicidal depression or bipolar 2, I felt very alone. I didn't know that there was anybody I could call because nobody talks about these things. So therefore, that leads into being lost. I was also uninformed. So this is where my education piece of Hang On Health comes in. When I was diagnosed as having bipolar 2, my therapist, who I love, gave me 2 articles and said, here you go. I didn't know, that was it. I didn't know where to go or who to talk to. I didn't know what I could look at online. I didn't know what authors were credible. I had to spend a lot of time even finding the ones that I did. So that's why it's important for Hang On Health to provide that easily accessible and credible information. So I'm doing that work for you and giving that to you all. And then lastly, when you're in those positions of being a business owner as well as dealing with your mental health, you're scared. You don't know what's going to happen. So there's that uncertainty. You don't want to fail. You don't want to let other people down. A whole host of fears come into play. And so that's where Hang On Health really tries to address those problems. So I mentioned doing that through education. The education piece is kind of twofold. One, I want to make sure that other entrepreneurs are sharing their stories on their mental health struggles, which lets people know that they're not alone. And again, that we can learn from each other. And the second piece is that, like I said a minute ago, I want to provide those research statistics, subject matter experts like Natalie, who can help you improve in all different areas related to mental health. The community is, part of what we're doing here right now, bringing all of us together. So that could be in-person events that are similar to networking or these educational programming events. And then the third piece is coaching/consulting that I'll launch next year, which is helping entrepreneurs build a mental health focused workplace. So while we're working on our mental health as business owners, we also want to make sure that we're equipping our team and our employees to be their best selves. And so that's what that consulting piece will be, to help you implement those things. And then finally, when you participate in anything Hang On Health, I have 2 asks. The first one is that you get out of your comfort zone. I just mentioned that you feel alone, but we can't help each other if we don't know what we're going through. So feel safe, feel, confident that you can talk to this group about whatever it is, and that we will be there for one another. And then because I am brand new, we just launched in October, please provide feedback on any topics that you want to hear, speakers that you're aware of, any subject matter experts. I want to hear it all. I want to make sure that I am delivering on the things that are most interesting and important to you. And then the last thing is that Hang On Health is very different. I shouldn't say very, is different than other business organizations who might just provide, or not just provide, coaching and consulting. What we do is we have these panels, and you'll hear obviously with Natalie that yes, we want to hear what's going on in your business. Yes, you could talk about, as in from my perspective, my client stole $30,000 in services from me. I had to go to a lawyer. I had to do all these things. But Hang On Health specialty and what makes us different is going beyond that to say, how did you actually feel, Tina? you were going through these things. What were those emotions? Tell me more about that. How did you get through that on a personal level, not just by taking these steps business-wise? So that's what really makes us unique. So to that, any questions real quick? Let's see if I got the chat. Also, I'll quickly mention, Natalie will probably say this too, that once we get started and she's going throughout her presentation, we want to make this conversational. I know we hear that all the time, and then nobody actually pipes up in the middle of when someone's talking, but please do that, because especially I know for me, the first time I heard Natalie and then on our conversation yesterday, you're like, oh my gosh, wait, stop, you have to tell me more. And so that's what we really want to encourage today. So with that, Natalie, I'm going to let you go ahead and tell your bio because you're going to do it way better than I do. And then we'll get into your presentation. And thank you so much for being here, Natalie, and all your hard work. And thank you to all of the attendees for being here. I appreciate you taking an hour out of your day. I know we all have valuable time and want to use it wisely. And that's what Natalie and I hope to do today. So, Natalie.
Thank you so much. And this is truly a collaboration between Tina and I. So right back at you, Tina. I really appreciate your partnership and collaboration. I know some people on the call, some people are new faces, but as a quick intro, I have been with Amazon or recently retired from Amazon after almost 17 years. I started right out of college, a finance degree, moved right into operations in a people management role and managed a variety of different departments in one of Amazon's oldest fulfillment centers. So it's original fulfillment centers in Kansas. And then got into learning and development where I thought about it and ran it like a business. So this is oversimplifying, but in operations, we're managing a supply chain. In talent, you can also manage a supply chain. So you're moving people through events like onboarding. Can you onboard them quicker? How can they get promoted? How do you make sure you've got the right skills at the right time and do that within the context of our environment? So I've done that the past, 12, 13 years in Phoenix, Arizona. I lived and worked in Europe for 4 years and then moved to Nashville a little over a year and a half ago. So, but within Amazon, so what makes me really excited about this, and you may wonder, okay, well, what's the connection to Amazon and entrepreneurship and why, why would someone at a Fortune 10 company relate to what entrepreneurs or solopreneurs are going through? What's interesting and what I learned about Amazon in working there is that every single person, no matter what level of the organization that you're in, is expected and encouraged to think and act like an owner and an entrepreneur. So you have a whole company of people that are owners and entrepreneurs. It's not just the people at the top, it's every single one. So you'll see some of the techniques Amazon uses in order to make that possible, as opposed to just saying we want everybody and it being good intentions. There's actually a methodical way that it's actually done. And so inside of Amazon, I started in operations. It's already, the oldest part of the organization, so had already had several years under its belt. But every role that I had had after that, I was the first time in the role. And so I was building businesses from scratch and building global teams from scratch. And so that's where I can relate to hopefully some of the things that you guys experience, even though it was inside of a big company. There's still the process of, hey, I've got to get funding. I got to kind of like a, venture capital model type thing. I've got to get funding and I've got to get, buy-in and influence for my ideas in order to even grow what I think this can become. And then how do I have an exit strategy so that the next person can take over and I can move on to the next thing that I want to do. So, but I'm very, I relate to also this idea of when you're doing innovative things that don't have SOPs, you're doing things that haven't been done before, it can be very, very scary. So how do you have these techniques for balancing, I am so excited and I'm scared to death at the same time? Because there's a way to actually thrive, not just survive, but there's, or at least I'll share from my experience the way I found to thrive instead of just survive and hope I make it, to the finish line. I haven't always been perfect at it, so keep in mind these are techniques I've honed and refined and learned and continuing to learn even to this day. But hopefully some of what I'll share resonates. And then I think Tina and I are both interested in learning from you guys as well, because we certainly don't know at all what things work for you guys that maybe we can implement and take away. So Tina, back over to you.
Yeah, just one question, and I see obviously you guys put some things in the chat. Maybe we could just do a quick, because there's 12 of us, 11 of us. I'd love to hear how many people are in your company. So is it just you? Are you a solopreneur? Do you have a couple contractors? Do you have a couple employees? So I'm just going to start real quick and go down the line here. And maybe you can just say what you do, your name, what you do, and like what your actual company is, and then how many employees you have. Melissa, I'll have you go first.
Thank you. I'm Melissa Collette, and I'm with Centerstone, and I feel like an interloper because currently in my life, I'm at an organization with over 4,000 people. In my 20s, I was an entrepreneur briefly. I owned a 24/7 answering service, and that was a whirlwind. And I'd like to get back to that someday, but I'll be honest, I'm really here because I'm a big fan of Natalie's. And when she puts out a program, I want to hear what she has to say. So that's really my main motivation, but I know I'll learn something. So thanks for including me.
Smart woman. Val?
Hey, so right now I have a company that is just still pre-seed, so we're still building everything. I have a consulting background, so I do personal safety. So there's a lot of things that kind of falls into that. There's education, we sell weapons, we do certifications and weapons training here in Nashville. So right now I've been looking to find a spot to build a brick and mortar. So in the interim of doing that, I've been doing some executive protection. That's kind of what I do like during my day. Or I have a background in HR consulting. And so all the time, like getting distracted, everyone's like, I need HR help. I'm like, I got you. Let me. But right now it's still pre-seed and really just trying to solve a big problem and redoing the things. You know, Tina and I have been friends for a while, and she knows it's hard when you're an entrepreneur, the struggles of it. And especially for me, I'm going against the grain in my own industry. And that's been really hard for me because I'm in a very heavily male dominated industry. And going in there as a woman to say, hey, you're teaching us things wrong. And I'm trying to not only recreate the wheel, I have to push it uphill on a battle of re-educating society on how we think about personal safety. So it's been a struggle mental health wise, but we're still going. We're here. So
Thank you. Tammy, you're next.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So I'm Tammy Osborne, and I have one company which is in the healthcare IT industry where I do business consulting, and we help large organizations implement and adopt new technology. I've always had a passion for physicians and executive leadership in that space. I'm a nurse by background, and interestingly enough, I started out my nursing career as a behavioral health nurse in a state psychiatric facility in Virginia. So lots of fun stories there when I started out my nursing career. But then after COVID, or just after COVID, or I guess as a result of COVID, opened a co-working space here in the Franklin area where we cater to female entrepreneurs, helping them grow, thrive, and just find support with other female entrepreneurs. So I have a soft spot for that. I have a soft spot for Tina. She helped me when I was launching the Sapphire Suite with.
Oh, we lost you.
I think I hit the button by accident. But I know you heard me say a soft spot for Tina because I saw her smile. So
That part I heard.
I think I just have always had behavioral health has always been special to me just because I started out my career there and saw the impact of mental health on families, everything from paranoid schizophrenia to bipolar to manic depression, lots of different things in the psychiatric facility, in the psychiatric world, and the impact it can have on families. But then obviously as my own career progressed and grew and, being in the corporate world as well and seeing executives, and now in the co-working space, just watching the pressure and the mental health impact that being an entrepreneur has, or being in an executive role, or wearing many hats as a female. It seems never ending sometimes, and everyone deals with it differently, and trying to figure out how to get that stigma out from around it, I think, is critical.
Thank you. Okay. Is it Flora, Dr. Flora?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. My name
morning.
is Livio Flora. I'm a professor at Washburn University, relatively small university with about 7,000 students in Topeka, Kansas, which is also coincidentally Natalie's alma mater. I'm an outlier in this group. I'm not an entrepreneur. The best I can hope to be to be an entrepreneur in my job, looking for innovative ways to teach my students, to do a good job with them, and also looking for new research ideas to write and to do research. I'm very excited to be here. I'm excited to learn about entrepreneurship, to understand how to look at new things and how to look at all things in new ways for the benefit of my and my students' professional development.
Amazing. Thank you. Eileen?
Hello.
Hey.
Sorry, I am eating lunch. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. Eileen Nevitt. Eileen Nevitt. So I have an image consulting agency based here in Atlanta with a satellite office in Nashville. And I work with mostly executive women. And by executive, I mean mid-level management up, whose style is not keeping up with their success. These are very successful, well-educated women who are rising in the ranks in their company, and it's post-COVID, and they're not 25 anymore, and the market doesn't cater to them, and styles have changed, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of these very, very talented women are really good at what they do, and they're not really good at the how to put themselves together part, the style part. So that's where I come in, and I work with individuals and corporations. So I just finished a gig with Cox Enterprises, and I have an app that allows me to do styling and image consulting and personal branding work for clients wherever they are in the world. It is just me. The business is just under 2 years old. I have had a series of interns. I have one intern right now who's amazing, and I forget what else we're supposed to say. What else were we supposed to say?
That's good. I just need number of employees and company type. So awesome. Thank you.
Welcome.
And then I think Jasmine.
Hi, I'm Jasmine O'Neill. I live in Nashville. I also was thinking I'd come and fly under the radar here because I'm not a founder. I'm a member of Women in Tech of Tennessee, and I saw this event floating around on LinkedIn and thought it sounded interesting. So I'm really just here to listen and learn. But I work now at a healthcare software company. I'm a corporate client manager, and there are about 400 people in my organization.
Great. Thanks. And Jessica?
Hi. I'm kind of in the same boat. Natalie invited me here, so I'm here to listen in, but I'm very big on mental health, especially diving down the hole of entrepreneurship myself for, some years on a personal level. But I am working with an organization called Equal Chance for Education. So to a small extent, I guess like Professor Flora, kind of being an entrepreneur, we're all individually in charge of our position. We're a very small organization doing big things for the whole state of Tennessee. We're in Nashville, and we help FAFSA and eligible students go to school. So for higher education. So there's a lot of nuts and bolts there that we're trying to maneuver and kind of starting as a refresh at the moment. So I believe this will have some good insights. I'm excited to hear some different things.
All right. Well, thank you, Jessica. Natalie, I'm going to turn it over to you. I know we have a lot to go through, so maybe we try. I know I told folks to chime in, and please do, but also let's maybe leave 10 minutes at the end, 5 minutes. See how much you can cover without confusing people. We may need to, actually, Natalie and I talked about turning this into a couple sessions. So I'm going to send a survey out afterwards. So if that is of interest to you, I'm going to put that as an option. We may have Natalie come back.
Perfect. All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Here. Okay. Getting this all. Okay. Let me know. Can you guys all see my screen okay? Okay.
Your face.
So I'll breeze through this piece really quickly, but the reason I actually start with how it all.
I can't see your screen.
You can or can't?
Am I the only one?
I can see it, how it all started.
I can see it.
Oh,
Yes.
that's weird. Okay, well, whatever.
Perfect. Okay.
Anyways.
Is everyone else okay? Okay, perfect. But I think it's important because if all of us look back, we can probably identify somewhere in our childhood or growing up, there was seeds for whether it's entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship planted, and like foundational mindsets or skills. And so just like probably with all of you, that was the same case for me. I'm the oldest of 7 kids. So you can see this is not a photo from last year. It's from a little while ago. But we grew up in Kansas, and our parents intentionally chose to raise us in a small town. They didn't want us to be small-minded, but they want us to be able to benefit from the small town values. So the way that they made us not small-minded, there were a few things. One is that when our job during the school year was school. And then when we were of working age, we had to all get jobs and start progressively paying for things. And I know that's not a novel concept, but I actually thought it was kind of mean at the time because I'm like, oh man, all my friends are getting like brand new cars and we've got a Chevy Capri Classic that we all have to share. And I need to start paying for insurance. And I thought I don't understand. But what I realized, this was such a gift because our parents taught us financial fitness so that by the time each of us graduated college, it was you are on your own and you've got the skills, maybe not their perfect skills, but you've got a really good foundation. And then you can keep building these habits over time so that you can take advantage of opportunities. And so that leads me to, because I believe financial fitness can lead to opportunity. So when I was in 8th grade and my youngest sister was 1, my dad quit work and went back to school full time for 2 years. So he lived in Nebraska for 2 years, and my mom and us 7 kids lived in Kansas, and my parents didn't go into debt. Not because they were gazillionaires or anything, it's because they were very smart with how they thought about money, how they spent. They're always looking for deals. And so going back to that, they were able to take advantage of this opportunity that seems like totally crazy. It's like 7 kids, you're 40 years old. Like, this is just nuts. So beyond just financial fitness, what that planted the seed for is, oh my gosh, these types of things are possible. Like, what may seem crazy to others, like you don't have to follow this predictable trajectory arc. You can have these big dreams and make them happen. So that's the other seed it planted. And I also throughout that process learned about kind of organizational structures. It's like, all right, if someone leaves your organization and our family, you have to refigure out how to do things together. And then when that person comes back in, you got to kind of, how do we organize ourselves now? And then the final thing that really stuck out to me, there were many things, but what's relevant to this conversation is this idea of transitions. And so my mom started transitioning to empty nesterhood when I was in high school. Because what she didn't want is that when my youngest sister graduated, it to be this jarring transition that's like an identity crisis. So what she did was slowly eased into it over time, like went out once every couple weeks with a girlfriend. She started weightlifting. And so by the time my youngest sister graduated, it was just another day. And she had all these, what she calls legs under her table, meaning, she's not just a mom, but she's got fitness, she's got friends, she's got hobbies, all these things. So that also planted the seed for, okay, I can actually be really thoughtful about transitions, maybe not all the time, because things happen in life, but I can be thoughtful, and these transitions can be elegant. They don't have to be just like a fierce, jarring transition. So those were the seeds that were planted early.
So Natalie, it sounds
Yeah.
like for her, it was a lot of discipline and a lot of planning ahead, and then the discipline to stay around those things in order to follow that or get into that financial fitness. Thinking ahead of when they're going to school so that she can have that easy transition and have a,
Yes.
fun time once
Yeah.
they're gone. So planning ahead and discipline.
Yeah, and that's a really good point that you make, because some of these concepts, they're not new, and they're not magic, and they're not novel. It really is like they're so basic and so simple. It's the discipline that's the differentiator.
Yeah.
So that's spot on. And that's also will tie into this work-life balance thing later on, because I thought it was magic. It comes, come to find out it's so simple, it's hard, and it's
Right.
the discipline.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for jumping in. The next piece, so with my parents, I got these foundational mental models, but where I really learned that I personally have the power to invent my own life was through this situation that seemed like a crisis. I'd got my degree in finance, was getting ready to graduate, and intended to go into grad school in psychology, but it wasn't for me anymore. And for the first time in my life, I was literally without a plan, and I was so embarrassed and ashamed because I thought, I don't know myself to be this person without a plan. And what are other people going to think when they find out I don't have a plan? And I don't want to work in finance. That's not why I went into it. I went into it to figure out how to grow the business. I thought so I went to my mentor, and I was just totally embarrassed. I was like, oh, this is just going to be like the worst. And I said, hey, I don't know what I want to do. Like, and it's 2008, keep in mind. So the economy's trash anyway. And he was just really calm, like, hey, it's just, another day, go picking flowers, sort of kind of reaction. He said, well, have you ever thought of study abroad? I was like, well, I didn't think I could because I'm getting ready to graduate. He said, well, how about you reach out to everyone that you met last year at that conference we went to in the United Arab Emirates, and I'll reach out to everyone I met, and we'll just see. So we literally invented a study abroad experience. My university had never sent anyone to the Middle East. I don't think this university had ever had a exchange student from undergrad before, and it's an all women's university at the time from the Middle East, from the United Arab Emirates, of all local women. But what I learned is like, oh my gosh, we have the power to just like and make this stuff up, like invent. This is pretty cool. And the second thing that I learned was my skills are transferable across the globe. So it's not just that I went to school, but at the time, this culture was kind of perceived as hard to break into. But what I was able to do is make friends, got invited to iftar dinners, weddings, to go spend the night at their houses, these experiences that the average person would not get. So I realized, wait a second, we're more alike than we're different. My skills are transferable, and I can actually connect with anyone across the globe, no matter what our backgrounds are. So I was like, this is actually pretty cool stuff, and I want to do something international for sure. So I learned I have the ability and the power to invent my life in this situation. So these are kind of all the lessons that I learned. To kind of sum it up, got to be really clear on who I am and where I'm going. Financial fitness, put a lot of legs under my table. I can make elegant transitions. I have the power to innovate. Monsters live in the dark, and actually mentors are the light that kind of helps scares them away. And then I think opportunities are everywhere.
And
go ahead.
So going back to the beginning of when I mentioned who Hang On Health is, and that we want to help entrepreneurs build personal mental resilience to achieve personal and professional peak performance. Everything that you have listed there is also pertains to a business. And so that's where the business mental health also helps with the personal mental health. So those are all great steps, stages, principles to have for both areas.
Yeah, absolutely. That's totally spot on. And to Tina's point, we'll show kind of how they're connected. This ties to Amazon mechanisms and mental models, and how then you can make it your own for your personal life. So we'll connect all of them because even though the terminology is different, if you look, there's common concepts and themes. So you're spot on. Okay, so how did I get to Amazon? Again, just got back from study abroad, job searching, and we live in a town of 1,500 people to 2,000. And we have this family friend that works at a local liquor store just once a week to get out and about. And I popped in there, and the irony is I don't really drink and I don't like it. And I was just going to pick up something for a salsa dance party. And our family friend said, "Hey, have you ever thought of working for Amazon?" And at that time, Amazon was known as this used bookstore where you kind of go buy your college books for cheap. It was not a place where people thought, "Oh, everybody wants to work there." It was kind of unknown. So I said to her, I said, "Well, I think they're all software engineers. Like, I'm not a software engineer. Like, I don't want to work in software engineering." She's like, "But I think they do other things." It's like what? Like, what else do they do? But what I learned is they had one of their original warehouses in Southeast Kansas. And so I was able to meet one of my personal goals, which was to get into people management right away. So I started in operations as a people manager in the picking department, and then ran a variety of other departments. And when I was there, there's a lot of different things that I personally learned. And just as a disclaimer, I don't work for Amazon any longer, just because I have retired basically from Amazon on December 6th. And then all of what I'm about to share is in the public domain, and infused with my personal experience. So just as a disclaimer. But when thinking about, okay, what from Amazon, this now big, huge Fortune 10 company, might apply to entrepreneurship or intrapreneurship, as Tina and I were talking, there's really kind of 5 things that popped out. And I'm actually going to tell kind of stories and run through each of these because they might seem really obvious in concept, but there are specific methods to how they're applied that make them sustainable over time. So the first one is really empowering everyone to think and act like an owner. So what that means is that every single person at every level of the organization, whether you are a person that picks the orders that customers have made, or whether you're the top level executive, you drive innovation. And so when you're innovating, though, you may be figuring things out for the first time. And so you can't necessarily say, write a standard operating procedure, like here's the steps for how things are done, because the thing's not invented yet. And so what you have to do, or what Amazon does really well, is they have a framework for decision making. So as opposed to, hey, we have all this expertise, you do need subject matter expertise, but some of it we're building as we go because we're doing new things, but they anchor to a decision-making framework. Amazon calls it the leadership principles. Some companies call it their core values, but that's how they make decisions, is based on these leadership principles. And I'll give you an example of everybody being able to innovate, no matter what level of the organization you are. And this is maybe a very simplistic example, but as a person packaging the items, when I was running the packaging and shipping department, I noticed one person they were able to process many more units than everybody else. And so I would observe them and think, like, they've got to be doing something different. It's not just that they're just faster. That might be, but there's probably something process-wise that they're doing. And it was like they had to scan a barcode within the process, and everybody else was like reaching over here, or having to go get their scanner. But this person had taken a barcode, and simply by the placement of it on their computer, they were able to make it one movement. And so we're like, okay, well, let's test that across our entire shift and department. And it drove like statistically significant improvements in rates. And then we were able to share it across the building and then across the network. So that's something that simple. Something that's bigger is like an executive came up with.
Sorry, real quick, Natalie.
Yeah.
I think, talking about that, it's so simple. The fact that such a huge organization can do that, like, and implement something so tiny, you would think, that's not going to help at all. But it really did. So I think that kind of goes back to that, foundational stuff and the basic things. But yeah, I think that's a good, takeaway for our folks, for entrepreneurs to keep in mind.
That is spot on, Tina, actually, because that's also something that I think I know personally wrestled with when I came to Amazon. As I was like thinking, okay, if we're supposed to be innovating, it's got to be these grand, things that save a gazillion dollars. And it's a full suite of things. It's like these very tiny things matter just as much. And in fact, stacking a whole bunch of tiny things on top of one another can actually lead to quicker and bigger results than just one giant thing you do one time a year. So both things matter, and both things are important. One is not more important than the other, but that's spot on.
And to that, relating it back to mental health, that one little change affected everybody and impacted everybody that was working there. So it made everybody's job easier and hopefully made their stress less and their anxiety and the fact that they're rushing around trying to fulfill their orders, etc. So being able to innovate and collaborate, on that level helps all of us, even mentally.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the phrases that Amazon has, and I absolutely love this, it's attack the process, not the person. So when you're looking for, even if someone's underproducing, you first look to the process, like or do they not have the tools? Is the environment not set up? Like what's differentiated about this? And then how do we solve from a process standpoint? Because we believe that everybody wants to do well, and be an owner. And so, let's look to the process really deeply in first.
Which really lends itself to making the employees feel so much better.
Yes,
and they can be happier knowing that they, like you said, aren't personally getting attacked. They're being coached, they're being helped, they're working together, and they don't feel alone. So that's a really great thing that Amazon does, I think, culture-wise.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got these mental models, whether you call them core values or leadership principles, whatever. But if we just leave it at that, then those are just good intentions. And we know everybody already has good intentions. And so there's a couple things that Amazon does structurally to reinforce this culture in everything that we do. So this just become part of your DNA. So one of the things that they do is embed these in their business processes. So they're not just words on a wall, but if you look at their website, we hire against these. That's the answers to the test. That's how we interview, is these leadership principles. We want to know how people dive deep, examples of where they've innovated, where they've delivered results, where they've earned trust. We also use them in the promotion process, in your performance reviews. We use them when making decisions, like what do we innovate, versus what do we prioritize versus not. So it's literally embedded into every business process. So it's words that we use every day, and it's beyond words. It's part of just how we think and operate. Another piece of what we do in order to kind of embed this decision-making framework, leadership principles into everything we do, is that we have to scale ourselves as leaders. So if you want everybody to think and act like an owner, you got to delegate, or else you're going to cap yourself, you're going to cap your organization. And it's so scary and hard, because I don't know about you, but me personally, I'm like, I know the quality that I deliver. I know the speed at which I deliver. I know the standards that I have. And you know what? Someone else may not do it exactly like I'm going to do it. But if you're going to grow an organization, you simply cannot be the one that does it all. And so the question becomes, well, how do you delegate or give up control without everything falling off the rails? And the way that you do that is through some very specific things that allow you to scale yourself as a leader and scale your business. For example, I'll give you a couple of examples. There's these business reviews, and they're in different cadences. So it could be a weekly business review, a monthly business review, a quarterly business review, where the metrics are reviewed, and more, it's not just a conversation about are we on track or not, did we hit goal. You want to go deeper, like what if we're over goal, like what's working. You want to extract insights, like what's working and how can we extrapolate that to other things we do. If we're not on track, in some maybe companies or organizations, that would be a really bad thing. But it's like, okay, what's going on? How do we unblock challenges, because there may be something from a process standpoint we need to help with, or we want to understand what's going on. And when you're innovating, not everything is going to go to plan because you don't know everything. But really, it's the insights from the discussion that are the gems, as opposed to just a black and white, are we on track, are we not? Because you could see that, like if they just sent you an email, that's not the value of these meetings. And so what this allows you to do as a leader is inspect what you expect. So you're aligned on what are our priorities, because that's what we're going to be talking about during these reviews. And then we really want to focus on the input metrics, because those are the things we can control. So if we've got the inputs metrics, as opposed to just focusing on the output, which should come, then if we invest our time in those inputs, then it's much more likely that we will be able to achieve whatever goal it is that we set out to do. So these weekly reviews, and as a leader, you don't necessarily dive into the same topic every single time. So it's not this monotonous, like, okay, well, every single time we're going to talk about this one metric. Those are indicators for where you want to dive deeper. And you use these conversations as teaching tools too. So you're teaching, like, why are we doing this? How is this happening? What did we learn? How might me go faster? What would it take to go faster? So everyone who's in the room, you're using it as a discussion and a teaching tool too. So that would be these weekly reviews, which I'm sure all of us have anyway, but it's maybe a differentiator, I would say, is the fact that it's not monotonous, and the value is in the discussion and the insights, as opposed to just are we on track or not.
So I love that, because talking about how the value is in the insights and not just the metrics, I would think that it's very rare that companies think that way, because a lot of times it comes down, especially when it's a public company, to did we hit our numbers? And if we didn't, well, then that's a huge problem, instead of looking at it, maybe when you're building as a brand new company, you can think more about those insights. But I think that that's really interesting. If we pull it back some, I'm gonna maybe put you on the spot here, Natalie.
Yeah.
As you were learning all of this and you were scaling as a leader, what struggles did you come across, and how did you get through them? So I'm sure it was, for instance, scary. Did you feel optimistic still? Did you feel that you had the self-worth to do all of this? Those kinds of things.
Yeah, that's interesting. So when I first joined Amazon, I was full of confidence. And in fact, I walked in and had said, hey, can you tell me where the picking manual is? Because what I planned to do was do what I had always done that had made me successful, which was memorize, and master it. And someone said in jest, they said, well, if you find it, let us know. But their whole point was, we're innovating so fast, it doesn't even make sense to write this stuff down at this point in time, because you're going to write it, and literally within the day, you're going to have to change all of it. So I was like, oh my gosh, I think I'm actually going to get fired. How am I actually going to even, I was so worried about that. How am I actually, if they don't have something I can just sit down and memorize, so I had to learn differently. And that takes time. What I had to learn to do was develop a framework for decision making, so that I could prioritize, because information's always coming in. It's and what I wanted to do was could somebody just stop all of this so I could get a handle on it? we
Need to
just
turn
shut
my
everything
inbox
down?
off.
Shut everything down for a minute because
Yeah.
it just felt like
I'm
I
gonna
was,
go crash in bed.
yeah. I was
Wake
like,
me
I
up
don't
in a
know.
week.
Yeah, I was like, I just wanted to like, could everything just stop? But it wasn't going to stop. And so, certainly it was not a breeze. But what I learned over time is, okay, I've got to anchor myself to a framework for decision making so I can quickly analyze, like have a five questions that I ask so I can quickly analyze, like, is this really a problem or a priority right now? Oh, if so, how big? If, what do we need to do? Who do I need to engage? Because that'll always just be coming in. Another
So
thing
it
I had,
sounds like, sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say another thing, a key thing that I had to learn is in a school setting, I was the expert. And in I could always be the expert. But in an environment that's constantly innovating, because of the sheer pace of change, always, you will never, not even Jeff Bezos is the expert in everything. And so what I learned, and I think I've gotten good at this, I'm still learning, but is that other people are an extension of my brain. So you know how on the show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, where they say, hey, can I phone a friend? What I learned to do was determine, what do I actually need to be a subject matter expert in, and then let me invest, and I use that word intentionally, invest time in building my network, because I need a whole suite of people who I can call at a moment's notice, or who can call me when I'm faced with maybe a particular challenge, and say, okay, help me think through this, or can you give me the latest information on this, so that I can make decisions. And so instead of relying and thinking, well, I'm the smartest one in the room and I've got all the knowledge, because I quickly learned that I am not the smartest one in the room and I do not have all the knowledge. But actually, the people that build a really strong network and collaborate are actually the winners. And the third thing I had to do is change my definition of success. And so in like an environment where things don't change frequently, very quickly if you're winning or losing, or maybe an established environment, because there's established metrics. It's like in school, I get an A, I know if I'm winning. If I get an F, I know that I'm losing. Whereas in an innovative environment, it's like, well, I don't know, we just missed our mark on that, and then people would say good job. I was like, I just can't make sense of this, like we're it's a good job sometimes if we miss things or fail, and it's a good job if we don't fail. Like I just can't figure this out. But really what it is when you're in an innovative environment, failing is success, because and what you're trying to do is build a really solid plan and do all your research up front so that you mitigate risk, knowing that, hey, there are going to be things that happen that we don't expect, but we're going to view those as lessons, and we're going to catch them quickly through these things, like an MBO, like a weekly business review. We can catch them quickly and adjust, so they're not like catastrophic things. But I had to change my definition of success, that failing is okay. It's actually a good thing if you can learn to do it rapidly, extract the insights, share with others, and move on to the next thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I know that you and I still have more to talk about, but we only have 4 minutes left. So I want to give other folks a chance to ask questions. I'm available to stay later. Natalie, I don't know if you are. Okay, and you are, and I'll also keep recording this so you can see the replay later. So anybody have any questions? Just take your mic off or unmute yourself. None? All right. Natalie, should we just skip to slide 11?
Yeah, let's do it. And maybe what we can do is, because we have some more, we have a whole nother kind of module on, like how a systematic way that Amazon goes about innovating, which to me is totally fascinating. And it deals with writing and working backwards, and 1 and 2 way door decisions, and meetings that may seem counterintuitive. So we'll maybe do that at another time. But let's see here. So we want to know, what is one thing that you learned today that you plan to apply?
Are you guys just hungry?
I found very interesting the idea of scaling leadership by expanding it beyond your line of sight. So trying to induce or to enable others. But it's difficult for me to understand how would be accomplished from a practical perspective. It's just lead by example and inducing others to engage in the same practices that you prove to be effective, or it's a more, how should I say, hands-on approach in which you mentor or coach others to engage in the same behavior that you as a leader have been successful.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the what I use is a very hands-on approach, meaning that not only do I use the business reviews, what I would do is also have a weekly sync or connect or one-on-one with each of my direct reports. Not everybody in my organization, but the people that reported directly to me because they were working on different projects. And the premise, my contract with them up front was that, hey, you're the CEO. You're the CEO of your business, your team, your organization. And so think of me as your board of directors. I won't let you fall off the rails, but our interaction should be like you're setting the agenda, and I'm your thought partner. And it's also because the development happens through the work. So if they're on a challenging project, they're going to automatically get development through with technical skills or even leadership things like how do you influence or influence at this level? How do you work cross-culturally, or how do you get into a different market, or how do you scale something? And so those are the things that we talk about every single week. It wasn't just, are you on track with your, of course you want to know if they're on track with, with the project or if they're hitting the metrics, but I also want to know why or how, or, what would it take if we went faster, because it allows you to see their thinking. And that's really important to me as a leader, is I need to be able to see their thinking, particularly if we're in physically different places. Like I had team members in Europe, in the Middle East, in India. I need to see their thinking because then I can catch, hey, are maybe things, maybe they think things are going okay, but they're really not, just because from experience, and then you can coach them through that, like, hey, maybe, but it's really important, the discussion piece of things. And not everyone all the time meets with, their direct reports every week. But for me, it was important because I wanted a relationship where we're building trust so that we can move very quickly and we don't have to spend time like what I really meant was, or, where you're doing a lot of that. It's like, because sometimes you just need to get to, you got to trust me on this one. I can't tell you all the details now. It's, some of the information I can't share, but you just got to trust me. And that's what I was also not just coaching them, because I wanted them to learn skills so that they can continue to, when I'm out, by the way, like on vacation, I wanted them not just to manage, but I wanted them to continue to grow the business. And what I was also developing was successors, like a whole group of successors, because I wanted to move on to the next thing at some point. But for me, I wanted that hands-on approach where I'm using individual syncs, team syncs, projects. I help them get mentors because there's some things I'm not great at that other people are, to really help them develop as leaders and scale themselves as well. Good question.
Anyone else?
Well, not really a question, but I guess so. There's definitely, I took a lot of notes and lots of things to take away even from the role that I'm in. So it was a lot of great insight. You really had me in the last part when you were talking about how to build framework for decision making, because that is so crucial. I love how you said define success in your environment. That was a little bit of a mind blower, because it's true. You look at the world success, what version of what success looks like, and just an overall view of what that is, and actually narrowing it down to what your organization is doing or what your business is doing, whatever that is. That was very insightful. So thank you for sharing. And I know I put it in the chat, but if you have any cheats of like what you use as a framework for decision-making questions, that would be awesome as a starter point. But that was very, very insightful, and thank you for sharing that. And if you have anything else to add on that, I'd love to hear it. But that was definitely a great takeaway. There was a lot of others, but that was one of my biggest ones there.
Yeah, absolutely. We've actually curated a whole list of resources we'll send you. And Amazon's primary framework for decision making is its leadership principles. And they just got these leadership principles, and they don't have I don't know about you, but if you go to maybe other organizations, or this is a generalization because I have only worked at Amazon, since I graduated, but they have just one thing, and that's oversimplifying, but it's the leadership principles, because they're durable over time, and they work for all levels of the organization. And how you represent dive deep is one of the leadership principles, but how you represent dive deep, as an entry-level manager looks very different than as a C-suite executive, but the expectation is still the same as you're diving deep. And it's not like people have to think, okay, I've got a decision-making framework for this and a different one for that and a different one for that. It's always go back to the leadership principles. And the beauty is actually in the tension. So it's not a checklist like, okay, I dived deep and then I earned trust and then I delivered results. It's actually in the tension. So for example, if you have to go fast. So one of our Amazon's principles is bias for action, because speed matters in business, and you have to insist on the highest standards. Well, how do you do that at the same time? You got prioritization, like what really matters. So it's actually in the tension where there's these, where the beauty is. They don't serve as a checklist. It's where's the and how do you manage the tensions, because there's tension in every big decision.
Yeah. Yes, there is. Thank you.
Yeah, but I think the key thing is simplicity. It's like, okay, whatever the is what I found is, especially in a large organization that gets larger, is as simple as you can make it, the better, because then everybody can memorize things like, yeah, we'll just go back to the leadership principles. And they're not trying to memorize 100 different things. It's like, nope, just it's the leadership principles. Whether we hire people, whether we promote people, whether we make a decide to invest in this company, go back to the leadership principles.
It's the acronym KISS that we use all the time in sales. Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Everybody tries to complicate things, and it's so unnecessary. Just keep it simple.
Yeah.
So true.
All right. Good.
Cool.
All right.
I don't know about you guys, but I sometimes I'm a little bit of an introvert, and I think of things afterwards, and then I'll say, I know I come across as an extrovert, but
I was gonna say, I don't know in what world you're an introvert, but okay.
I love being around people, but I need thinking time. But if you guys have questions afterwards, like I usually do, I'm like, wait a second, now that got me thinking about this. You shoot them to Tina, and we'll answer them.
Yep. And like I said, I'll have a replay of this online probably by Monday or so, and I'll email everybody and let you know.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
everyone. Thank you so much, Natalie. You're so smart and brilliant and a rock star, and we're so lucky and blessed to have you speak, and hopefully we can get more.
Absolutely. All right. Have a good rest of your day.